Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump are set to meet on the sidelines of the G7 summit set to be held in France's Avion-le-Bain. And this is going to be one meeting which is going to be watched by geopolitical commentators across the globe. Now, this is going to be the first face-to-face meeting between Modi and Trump ever since the two leaders met in February 2025, when Modi was among the first foreign dignitaries to have visited the US President after his inauguration in January 2025. Now, ever since, India and US ties have been on a roller coaster ride. Now, while there had been much exchange of platitudes and friendly messages between the two leaders, it is significant to note that both sides, which are discussing an important interim trade deal, have failed to sign the same. Moreover, India and US ties had further nosedived when the US President Trump repeatedly claimed that the US had ensured a ceasefire between India and Pakistan during the May 2025 conflict between the two South Asian neighbors. Now, on the trade front, while the two sides had announced in February 2026 that they had arrived at a framework of the interim agreement that the two sides have been working on, both sides have failed to finalize an interim agreement so far, despite discussions going on the subject for over a year now. Significantly, there are sticking points remaining still to be addressed, including the concerns of the agriculture and dairy sector of India. And India has underlined its red lines to the US side, sources note. Now, even as Trump and Modi are set to meet on the sidelines of the G7 summit, it is learnt that a trade delegation from the US is set to arrive to India on 22nd June. Now, the significance of this visit grows even more because a US trade delegation which had arrived in India just about a week back had discussed the framework of the interim trade deal between the two sides with their Indian counterparts. But still, the two sides have been unable to sign the trade deal. Now, the visit is going to grab eyeballs across the globe also because it comes at a time when India-US ties have seen more tensions in the wake of at least 3 vessels carrying all Indian crew being either disabled or attacked by the US military over the past 1 week in the Persian Gulf. Now, while the US and Iran have declared that the conflict between the two sides is over, the conflict has had major repercussions for the plight of seafarers in India and also India-US relationship. It is significant to note that while the US military had disabled a Palau-flagged vessel which had all Indian crew had survived thanks to the intervention of the Omani authorities. However, 2 more foreign flag vessels were later attacked by the US military, and at least 3 Indian seafarers lost their lives during the same. Now, this led to India expressing its displeasure to the US side, and the country had also summoned the US Charge d'Affaires in India on the issue. On the other hand, the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in a statement, had said that violations of the US naval blockade by any vessel would not be tolerated. Now, with this backdrop, officials say that while the big meeting between Modi and Trump is going to be closely watched, it is unlikely that the two sides are going to reach any breakthrough vis-a-vis the Indo-US trade deal. Furthermore, it remains to be seen whether this meeting remains another exchange of pleasantries between the two sides, or India and US are able to walk the talk when it comes to their claim of having a most preferred strategic partnership between the two nations. We'll keep tracking this major visit between Prime Minister Modi and the US President Donald Trump. This is Nishika Salari reporting from New Delhi for India Abroad.